Do what? You gonna see that to plug it in later on? You know, there's the reason that's in on so
One of Laura's had the binder, right?
Yes. Jake is coming, so I think he's just on there right now. He's probably en route.
Gotcha.
But the other two do have their binders.
Okay.
I don't know how to do this and breathe,
Oh,
so I may take off. As if you're talking, right? See, look at things
I just quit using that. Just started using my laptop.
It's
I
just,
kind of gave up.
it's so painful. All right, we'll call to order our regular study session for January 11th at the multipurpose room at City Hall. Note that digitally, we are all in attendance. Where are we missing? I'm missing
Jake, who's on his way.
Okay, so Jake is excused and he'll be here soon. We have the minutes from January 4th. Do we have any discussion or emotion on the minutes?
Approve the minutes of January 4th. Motion to approve the minutes of January 4th.
Thank you.
Second for that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Any opposed, say nay. I don't see any of those. And it looks like Jake has joined us electronically. Okay, who would like to take resolution? Oh, we need to review first. I'm just going to jump all over the place. So do we have any changes or discussions on the regular meeting for this afternoon?
No changes.
Okay, did anybody have questions for today's agenda? None? Okay, now we'll move to resolution 5. Is it gonna be Nicole, or did you want to introduce it, sir?
Thank you, ma'am. I'll give us some introduction here, although I want to give a lot of credit to Nicole and also Eric and our other Nicole, Ms. Cottle. We took a good look at this in terms of process and ordinance and state statute. I think we've got this together for you from a process, and our objective there was to make it as easy as possible and as clean and as understandable as possible. I've seen this actually happen twice in West Valley City since I've been here, and it can tend to get a little messy. So,
Oh, okay.
so we did try to make it so that it would work out as easily and as smoothly and so that everybody would understand what was going on and be happy with that process. So to that point, we have a little process outline here that I thought if you would like, I could go over, and that might raise some questions for you to discuss and or things that you might wonder about. And I will also introduce there are things in this process that we recommend, but aren't necessarily required.
Okay.
And so keep that sort of thing in mind as we go through it.
So if anybody has a question, they can
Right.
find out which one it is required or
Exactly.
just a suggestion.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
that works.
Okay, so the process will start out this way. We'll have the candidates interviewed in order specified as on the master ballot position list, which, as you will remember, is how the state code sets it up. And it's the same manner, therefore, process-wise, as you see on a ballot in November. And you all have a binder before you or with you now, and the candidates that have applied and submitted their information are put in there in that binder by the order that they will be interviewed. And so like I said, as the tabs show, that's the order in which they would be interviewed. So any questions on that? Okay. Now, the second point, the last two times this has happened, which is far back in the midst of time, we asked the candidates to stay out in the lobby if it wasn't their turn to be interviewed, which just seems to be kind of a matter of fairness, depending on, the last person would have the advantage of hearing all the questions and discussion, whereas the first person would not. This is one of those things that's not, you can't legally require somebody to not be in the open meeting.
Okay.
So if you choose to do that, it's really just by sort of agreement of the body and the group to participate in that. They wouldn't actually have to do that. Okay. So this is how the actual process will go. There'll be 6 minutes for each candidate. And how many candidates we have total?
7.
7. So you can see it's going to be a while to get through this. So 6 minutes each. The first 2 minutes will be an open introduction period where the candidate can introduce themselves to you and really basically say whatever they want by way of
Okay.
introductory comments. Then we have 2 minutes for 2 questions, or sorry, 4 minutes for 2 questions, 2 minutes each.
Okay.
We have a couple of proposed questions, but that's entirely up to you. You guys could, as a group right now, talk about some other questions you might want to ask them verbally. We did prepare some suggestions just in case you didn't really have any preference or were curious. The one thing that we think that we ought to do here is that however you ask the questions, keep that same process for every one of the candidates. And again, this is not a legal requirement, and you guys really honestly can do it however you want. But it's good HR practice and just would be clearer and fairer to all the candidates as well.
To have consistent.
Right. And so by
Okay.
that, I mean, let's say you have question 1, it's the same question for all the candidates and you have the same person ask that question, right? Could be you, could be me, could be the recorder. You could start with one end of the council and work their way around, but whatever it is, just be consistent, however
Okay.
it is that you want to do that. So I made a kind of a note here, or have a question here Nicole made for me. So at that point, what do you think about that? You got any preferences that you guys would prefer for conducting that? Like maybe you just ask all the questions, or have one of the staff do it, or take turns, or what do you think?
I don't know. Any ideas?
With just 6 minutes per candidate and the first 2 minutes being open introduction, realistically, if we want great answers, how many questions do you think we'll be asking each person?
Yeah, just the 2.
Okay, got it.
2 predetermined. And are we doing that all at 6 minutes with just one, or are we calling them in one by one for each different
Great question. No, we do all the 6 minutes with each
Each?
candidate there.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think excuse me, I think it would be best if one person did all the questioning. That way, they would have the same inflection and same presentation of the question.
Yes.
So I think that would be fair to the candidates.
And I'm almost thinking it'd be better to either have it from you or from the recorder, just to
Keep the process
keep the
rolling.
process rolling and not have any prejudice on our part as far as our tone or whatever.
Sure. Okay, well, we're glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And it looked like I saw some heads nod. I didn't hear everybody, but if that's what you're in agreement. If you have
okay
a
with that,
preference, I certainly, I'd rather be playing Pokemon or something. That's a joke. That's those two fires. Those two officers got lost their positions down in California, but it might actually come across better if the recorder asks some
Okay.
questions too. So that would be fine with me.
Okay. Let's have Ms. Kamick do that.
Okay.
And then do you want to share the two questions and see if they want to debate that, or do you want to finish the process first?
Let's go through the process
Okay.
first, and then if you don't mind, then we can, I'll give
That
you
works.
I'll give you the questions that we came up with, and then you guys can talk about other ones that might be more important.
Okay,
Wayne,
Yes, sir.
as I went through the binder today, I had one question come up in my mind.
Uh-huh.
Would Mr. Whetstone's employment be a conflict of interest with the RDA?
Okay, so we'll look into that, Don. I don't know the answer to that right off the top of my head, but we'll check that out, okay?
Yeah,
I don't believe there is any conflict because Nicole's gone through these really minutely, and I'm pretty sure she would have alerted me to that, but we'll check it out just to be sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
and I'm thinking if we have questions, can we just put them in an email and send them to Nicole
Sure.
so they don't go through a million hands?
Yes. Now that is, that'll sort of beg the time question, or by email, do you mean like right now?
Well, or just like today or tomorrow,
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
have a question about something in the
Oh,
packet.
about the packing
This-
process.
this
Yeah,
packet.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Send by email.
Like
We'll
Don
get-
having that question, if that was just an email to Nicole
Right.
and she sent it out to everybody and answered it, then we
Yep.
all know.
Yeah, we'll get
And then
that
nobody's
answer
getting
back out
different.
real quick, fast as we can. And that's right. Then nobody's getting any different information.
Yeah, I just want consistency so everybody
Right.
gets exactly the same information.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, now let me get you to the selection process. This gets even crazier.
I think you're gonna have to say this one 4 times.
Yes, so at least to start with, the council will vote on the individual if they have a preference, just like you would any other action item on the agenda. Meaning, let's say you all 6 love this one particular person and somebody jumps up and makes a motion to select that candidate and you have a majority vote, you're done. So
Okay.
that would be the easiest way to see that happen. Now, if that doesn't happen, here's how we would proceed. And this is by state law. This is very specific. So this part isn't really up for grabs too much.
No options.
Okay. If the motion for any particular candidate fails or ends in a tie, the mayor will call for another motion until you reach a majority vote. Okay. Now, at that point, if we actually have somebody, and this is sort of in the middle of the process, but just so I don't forget it later, we are actually planning on swearing in that person that night. Now, that might become a
Oh,
question
That's
because,
interesting.
right, because, you might think, well, let's delay it till next week so their family can come, or that sort of thing. But both the times we've done this in the past, we swore them in that night. That's our understanding of how the process should
Okay.
or has to work.
It should work that way,
Okay,
and
alright.
it's better for us, I think, just
Right.
HR getting set up and getting
Yeah.
everything.
And certainly
going.
will be better for operation of council, right? To not delay
Yeah.
it. Okay, so we reach a majority, we'll swear that candidate in that night to the office.
So
If
majority, not a unanimous vote?
Majority,
Majority.
meaning 4 of the 6, also another good point.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
it's a
because we don't have
major
7.
majority, so. or
Right, so
whatever.
4
Okay.
of the 6 have to
Agree on one.
make that majority.
Okay.
Okay, now, if you don't have a majority, then your options open up here a little bit. Okay, first thing to remember is you have
Paper, scissors?
it gets, and again, to sort of,
Or
seems
cards.
kind of humorous, but I have literally in one of the 2 times where that happened here in the city, we had to draw a candidate out of a bowl. in a tie situation. That can actually happen. Okay, so if the majority is not reached, you then you start operating within the 30-day time limit that you actually have to have this candidate appointed. And the 30-day time limit starts when again?
January 4th, so the day
January
of the
4th.
vacancy.
Right,
Mhm.
so you'll already be in to that 30 days, whatever that is, a week, 10 days, something like that, by next Tuesday, okay? If you don't get a majority on that night, then what happens is the two candidates with the highest number of votes from the initial voting, let's say somebody made a motion to get one of the candidates and you didn't get 4 votes, but you got 3. And then another candidate came up and you got 2 votes, but not
Okay,
more, but not a majority. And you had no other candidates. Those would be your 2 candidates under that next step in the process. Okay,
Okay.
any questions on that?
nope.
And Jake, you got all this, right?
I did.
He's working
All
both.
right. Okay, so
Excuse
then
me
at
just
that
one
point,
second.
oh yeah, go
So
ahead.
Jake, if you want to be spaced, Lars is not coming, but it's totally up to you. Just making sure you knew. Okay. All right, sorry about that.
Okay, now there's another version of that. Let's say you just plain didn't have 2 candidates that were picked and voted on that even couldn't get the majority. Let's say you only liked 1 candidate. Then what you have to do is you have to suggest, you as the mayor, suggest a motion to the council, to somebody to make a motion to just plain pick 2 candidates out of that draw.
Okay,
Now, a question just came to my own mind. You can probably help with, Nicole. Let's say you had just the 1 candidate.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that would make sense that you would take that candidate just plus 1 other
Right,
for whatever that motion included, right?
right.
Okay.
if
all
we
right.
don't have a
If
majority.
you don't have a majority,
Okay,
okay?
We just have to get to 2
Right.
at some point.
If you don't come to 2 candidates through your own nomination process, then the mayor will ask for a motion from somebody to nominate 2 candidates. So then you can
Okay.
have 2 candidates to choose between in further discussion and a vote. Is that clear? Everybody good there? Okay, now, next step of complexity. You got 6 people on the council, right?
Mhm.
You could end up in a tie there. Like I said, that's already happened before.
Right.
So if you end up in a tie and you can't break that through any other, amendments or whatever in the discussion, then you, by state statute, pick this person by lot, determined by lot is how it's written in the state code. Now, Nicole has recommended, I don't know if she's a card player or what's going on, but she will have a deck of cards. You'll have the 2 candidates come forward. That each candidate will pick a card from the deck. High card wins, aces or high. Okay,
Okay.
that sound acceptable? Now, we could do the fishbowl with the draw. I mean, but that seemed like that would work for the process, and there wouldn't be any questions about were there more than, did that person have more names in the bowl than this person, or who wrote it, or can you read it, or what, any of that.
Well, and you taking the card off, that's your own destiny. So
Exactly, you
yeah.
picked it.
yeah, you picked it, you got it.
So I kind
Okay.
of liked that idea. I thought that was pretty
Good
good.
idea. Okay,
And there you go. At that point, you will have a person to swear in and fill that seat. So any questions on the process? Okay, all right. All right, let's go on to the questions themselves. And again, these are just ones we came up with. They aren't necessarily ones you'll like or need to use, but it might spark conversation amongst yourselves. So we came up with 5 to choose from. The first one was, what do you feel your role as a council member is? Second one is, what leadership attributes would you bring to the council? Third one is, define for us your understanding of statesmanship. Fourth one is, why do you love West Valley City? Fifth one is, give us an example of a time where you were able to resolve a conflict amongst a group of people or on a team. That was our HR department's addition in that one. Or experience, HR experience anyway. So we tried to be kind of broad. We tried to be kind of West Valley. We tried to be kind of HR. We tried to be kind of group dynamic. That was the effort, would come up with those 5 questions. But again, you guys could have different ideas, and obviously that's why we're here in this item for discussion now.
Okay, let's turn it over to the council. Any ideas of what questions you would like?
Question about the four question you just mentioned, the 464, right? Can we do that freely? Just our feel, and we don't have to go with the.
No,
No, we have to have two specific questions
Right.
that everybody gets asked
Right.
exactly the same way,
right. And again,
so that
let
it's fair.
me also clarify, when I say so specifically, no, technically you guys can do whatever you want. But it's going to be a lot clearer. It's going to be more fair. It's going to be more defensible. It's going to be,
Yeah,
unchallengeable, so to speak, if you do it consistently.
I like the 4 and 5 of those questions you have.
Questions 4 and 5?
number 4, number 5. Do you mind reading those again?
Sure. 4 was, why do you love West Valley City? And 5 was, give us an example of a time where you were able to resolve a conflict amongst a group of people or on a team.
We have that in the packet.
No,
No.
but we can get to those questions
Yeah,
later
send
if you
email.
want, for sure.
Can you read them again?
Yep, you bet.
The first three.
Or does somebody have
Oh,
it
the
that they
first
can
three.
just email it real quick?
Do you have it? You want, can you like
Can
throw
just-
it up on the screen?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
and then you guys, they would be able to see it that are on Zoom as well?
Yep.
Okay, all right. While he's doing that, I'll go ahead and read the first 3 again as well. So first one is, what do you feel your role as a council member is? Second one is, what leadership attributes would you bring to the council? And the third one is, define for us your understanding of statesmanship.
Okay, Don, suggestions, or do you want to wait for them to be displayed first?
I was waiting for him to be displayed.
Okay, I'll be patient.
We all will be.
If we stare at Eric, he'll go faster, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of a joke, but I haven't heard one recently.
No, I have lots of jokes if you want a joke. They're definitely not mine, but they're somebody's.
I always have a hard time remembering on the spot.
That's
That's my issue.
I have a suggestion. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, Lars. Yep.
You know, I just received this binder today and I didn't know what the other questions that they were being asked were. And I'd like some time to digest the packets. And maybe next week in our study meeting, we can choose the 2 questions that we would
Be
ask.
fine.
That'd be fine.
I would
Yeah,
prefer to do that.
that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Because the other thing is if we discussed them and decided them today, would all the people, all the candidates get those immediately? Because there are some people here that are
Right,
candidates that would have it a week before the others, so.
right. Yeah, that's
We
a
just
good
need-
point. And I think that's fine suggestion from a staff standpoint. It's no problem for us. Obviously, we can produce that and get that ready for you. And from consistency, and that probably actually
Fairness.
is better from a
Yeah.
process standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, then you don't have
Also-
a week.
I think some of the questions they already answered in the packet were very similar to these.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
so we wouldn't want to ask it twice.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I like about Don's and Lars's suggestion is we just kind of threw those up there because we really kind of started from the premises that, or the premise that you guys would probably like to come up with your own questions. So yeah, there's
Okay.
no ownership in these. And as Don mentioned, it's kind of not a surprise that they would be similar to the other ones because we were just sort of huddled up and kind of throw stuff together.
okay. So should we not move any further on this now and just let everybody absorb their packets, give some suggestions? Who do you want to email those to? Myself or Nicole?
I would suggest probably ought to go to Nicole.
That's what I was hoping they would say, but
Yeah,
I was just giving the option.
sure.
That works.
Does that work? Everybody's good with emailing your suggestions to Ms. Cottle, or Hammock, not Cottle? That's all.
But
I
first,
have-
you gotta send out 6 questions.
Well, these are the questions up there, so she can email that to you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, good.
let's go ahead and email those out, but if you have different ones, let's just adjust
Yeah.
what they are, and then in study session, we can make a decision.
Once
And
you
I'm-
get those compiled, you want to send them to everybody? and
Yeah,
then-
that's what I was just gonna say. Let's get them all sent out.
So once I receive all of your questions, I'll compile it into one and then send it out to all of you.
Okay.
And because human nature is to procrastinate, let's, can we set a time of Thursday by noon so that she has time to get them compiled and out to us?
Sure. Will do.
Okay, Thursday by noon.
Perfect.
So 11:45, everybody start working on it.
Hey, I don't think we have anything
Anything
else
else?
we need to let you know on that unless you have any further questions.
Questions from anyone else? Okay. We have the Bangor Highway presentation.
Okay, yep, we have some representatives from UDOT here with us today to give us the latest on what's going on with the Bangor upgrades. Welcome, gentlemen.
Is it okay if I remove my mask while I talk? Okay.
Is that fine with you? Fine with me.
So my name is Brian Allen. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak with you today. The purpose of this presentation, as mentioned, is to provide an update on Bangor Highway and 4700 South State Environmental Study, also known as an SES. Tonight, I'll be sharing the preferred alternative, also called the design, how we arrived at this design, its impacts, current cost estimates, and an overall project schedule. So once again, a reminder, the purpose of this project is to convert all the intersections along Bangor Highway to grade separated freeway style interchanges. So I don't know if a lot of you drive Bangor Highway, I'm sure you do. We've all experienced the tremendous benefit that converting these intersections to interchanges brings to the community. It enhances safety. In addition, it improves travel time and increases mobility for drivers along Bangor corridor. So this is this shows a schedule. To date, we have completed a public scoping. So we received comments that we used to help develop different alternatives that we analyzed. We have selected a preferred alternative, and as I mentioned, that will be presented tonight. Upcoming on our schedule, we have neighborhood meetings scheduled this Thursday to disclose property impacts to those who are impacted by the new interchange design. The draft state environmental study will be released on the 17th of this month. The SES will analyze the impacts of the preferred alternative on the natural and built environment and include mitigation commitments and strategies. And as I go through, feel free to ask questions as you want. So we analyzed two different types of interchange for this location. The first one being a tight diamond interchange. The second one, a single point urban interchange. So we ended up selecting a single point urban interchange based on traffic performance. So it has the least amount of delay, and we measure delay in a term called level of service. The single point urban interchange is the type of intersection you see all along Bangor corridor. So it will look like a lot of the other interchanges on Bangor.
So have you put any of the diamonds along Bangor, or it's just an option?
We have not, however, we're recommending to put one at 9800 South.
98. Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's a good question. They typically just handle less traffic. So we analyzed three different alignments: an east shift, a hybrid shift, and a west shift. So the west shift is, these names are pretty self-explanatory, when you take the whole alignment and you shift Bangor to the west. This option was eliminated due to the costly relocations associated with that. So shifting Bangor to the west would impact the Life Church, the IHC facility, a number of businesses that are very cost prohibitive to relocate. We looked at a widening alternative. A widening alternative is where you widen to the east and you widen to the west. Although this option allowed for some parts of the aqueduct to be remained in place, it required relocation of a significant portion of the aqueduct still. It also required risky construction close to the aqueduct for elements that we were keeping in place. In addition, it only allowed for 2 lanes to be remain along 4700 South. So after considering all these options and consulting West Valley City and Taylorsville, we elected to eliminate this alternative, although it protected in place portions of the aqueduct. So in the end, we selected the east shift for the alternative to move forward. So the east shift does require the relocation of the Jordan Aqueduct. So we've selected a single point urban interchange to be constructed, and we elected to shift Bangerter to the east. So next we looked at the 2 different vertical alignments. So because we were relocating the aqueduct, this allowed us to explore a vertical alignment that goes under. So the under vertical alignment and the over vertical alignment are both environmentally cleared in this document. So we have not yet selected a vertical alignment for Bangerter Highway. However, the impacts are addressed in both. The impacts associated with each vertical alignment are addressed in the state environmental study. So you can see here, the under alternative costs more money, and we're planning on working with the city to identify that additional funding if the city sees so fit to take Bangerter under. So the Bangerter over alternative is the lowest cost option. Both the over and under alternative impact the same number of properties. The under alternative is it's about $18 million more than the over alternative. This cost comes from significant utility impacts. So this map right here shows the utility impacts associated with taking Bangerter under. So you have to reroute all the utilities that were previously in 4700 South around the interchange. So that additional cost comes from the lengthy utility relocations in addition to the right-of-way required to purchase easements to put those utilities in. And as I mentioned before, the east shift requires the relocation of the Jordan Valley Aqueduct. So this has a impact on the schedule. So the interchange cannot be constructed until the aqueduct is relocated. So, yep.
So are you looking at relocating, or if you're going to have to relocate the aqueduct all the way to 201? So that you're not jetting out and in?
Yeah, so there's actually a
doing that?
we try to minimize our impacts to the aqueduct as much as possible, right? So right now we're just looking at each interchange and what the impacts to the aqueduct will be.
So you're looking at all that right now, so you know if you're going to move it to the east, you can do it the entire way, or you don't have to.
Yeah, we most likely won't have to. Between
Okay.
47th and 41st, there's a significant length there that we won't have to relocate it when we impact the aqueduct.
Sweet.
So we
Okay.
try to impact as little as possible in order to reduce costs.
Okay, thank you.
Also, the pipe has I believe it's a 100-year life span, and it's only about 50 years now.
Mhm.
So we've been talking a little bit with the district to see if they want to partner in order to, replace it now. But from what I've heard is they're not interested in
Yeah, probably.
absorbing that cost at the moment. So great question. Thank you. So with each of these alternatives, I want to talk a little bit about construction impacts. So pictured here is 4700 South and Bangerter Highway. So as you've experienced throughout the corridor, and if you live down south, when we take Bangerter Highway below the cross street, so if Bangerter Highway passes below 4700 South, we close the east-west route. So this figure right here shows the red is the closure of the east-west route, and you can enter Bangerter going right on, right off only. So this is required when we take Bangerter under due to constructability issues and feasibility of construction, also safety. I do want to note, however, recently at 6200 South, in the past, we have not closed interchanges when Bangerter has passed over the side street. However, we recently had to close 6200 South due to an increase in accidents. So this is something that UDOT and the city will have to continually coordinate to determine if that is the best way to move forward at this location. So next steps. As we move forward with this, as I mentioned, we're releasing the draft environmental document on the 17th. So I'm going to jump to this slide right here. We'll be holding a public, as I mentioned before, we're having a neighborhood meeting in a couple days to notify residents of impacts prior to release of the document to the public. The document will be released to the public on the 17th, in which we'll hold a formal comment period. So I'll give people the opportunity to review the comment, review the state environmental study, submit comments to UDOT. UDOT will review those comments and make adjustments to the document as needed prior to issuing a final state environmental study. So comments can be made in person at the public. Do you have a question? Okay. Comments can be made in person at the public hearing. In addition to this, on February 2nd, we'll have an online public hearing if people don't feel comfortable coming in person. And that public comment period will end on, is it the 13th? It's the 15th. Okay, so this has been moved 2 days. So after which, when we finalize the state environmental study, we'll move forward with contractor procurement and right-of-way acquisition. So we're going to begin appraisals here shortly and start acquisition to allow us to relocate the aqueduct in 2023. And construction, because of the relocation of the aqueduct, construction will last 3 years instead of 2 years. You guys are lucky here, right? 1 more year of construction. This is the contact information for the project website. Feel free to pass this to any residents that have questions. In addition to, we'll be coordinating with your social media to ensure that the public hearing is properly messaged to the community. So, is there any questions you have about the Bangerter Highway project at 47th?
On your preferred alternative, how many residential takes are you projecting you're going to need?
I actually don't have that number right here with me. We can look along here. So this field right here, there's not any residential takes excluding the Baptist church, right? And the residential takes end about right here. They're mostly full acquisitions due to the aqueduct relocation. There's hardly any partial acquisitions compared to other interchanges we have constructed. I can get that number to you though.
So out of the 91 impacted properties, how many of those are going to be acquisitions? All 91 or?
No.
Okay.
So the 91 is a total number of properties that could be impacted. That includes, for example, so over here on the interchange to the south, if we were to construct an aux lane, that'd be a number of partial impacts.
Okay.
However, that's included in that 91 figure. That's
Okay.
not funded for construction at this moment, but this document does environmentally clear that. So the main impacts right now will be, as I mentioned, the Bible Baptist Church, the Diamond Rental, I believe it's the old Xfinity building, and a number of relocations along the northeast side of Bangerter. And I'll get you that. We have a scroll plot that has that. I'll get that number for you shortly.
Mayor,
Yes.
this is just 4700 South. What about the other intersections?
Yeah, so currently 4700 South, 98th, 134th are all funded for construction in 2023. So we've really been focusing our efforts on that. We have begun looking at designs at 41st and doing some traffic analysis from California to 41st. However, we're still beginning that process. We really put most of our energy into completing these documents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Established that the configuration where Bangerter goes under is more expensive, would require approval, co-approval with Taylorsville, et cetera.
Mhm.
Is there any benefit? I mean, what are the pros to that design?
From a safety standpoint, they're the same. They operate identically to taking Bangor over. From a traffic efficiency, it's purely, I believe, an aesthetic community desire. So,
So further to the north, are you looking at taking any of the others under?
we haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, so that's maybe one of the problems with doing them one by one, because I would like to see consistency instead of, you know, right now with the continuous flow, almost every intersection is different.
Yep.
And it would be nice if we had consistency. So through at least West Valley, you knew you're either going over or under.
Sometimes it feels like a roller coaster, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, just the consistency to know what you're doing, I think would be nice. That's why I know why you do them intersection at a time, but to have a whole overlay would be nicer when making those decisions.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have those.
Yeah.
completed at this time. And we won't have those completed before we have to complete this document. Those are all funded, as you know, probably for construction in 2028. So,
Oh, okay. To start in 2028?
Yeah.
Okay,
any additional questions?
that's what I'm waiting to hear online. Any from? Okay, it doesn't sound like it. Thank you so very much for coming.
No, thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Look forward to, as you mentioned, there's a lot more interchanges on Bangor and West Valley City that we'll be working to convert to create separated facilities. Thank you.
I
Okay,
might
thank you.
mention too,
Oh, yes.
as he's leaving, that they've been very good to work with us on this project, and they've taken a lot of our suggestions, and we appreciate that. So
Thank you.
I've actually had the opportunity to work with West Valley. I worked with Dan Jones, 41st, in a number of projects, and I love working with West Valley City. It's a very impressive city, very well run, and honestly love working here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that input. All right, now we'll turn time over to Public Works for their strategic plan presentation.
okay, no introduction, I think, needed. This is I've lost count now, 7th or 8th amongst the list. And so Mr. Johnson's here to give you the Public Works version of our strategic plan or year end or all things Public Works presentation.
Thank you. Grateful for the opportunity. That's the last. Oh, look, okay, got to see it all backwards. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about our department. This is a pretty awesome place to be. And as Brian mentioned, West Valley City is a pretty amazing city, and I'm grateful to work here. And so we're going to walk through this thing. Really, as a department, one of our main focuses is we're infrastructure and assets. We either build or maintain, and everything that we do from the day that it gets built is decaying. And you may or may not have seen the documentary that Will Smith did. I Am Legend. It's actually a documentary about what would life look like without Public Works, and it's actually stunning. I mean, I guess it just gains an appreciation for what we do and who we are. But this is everything that we do is, to strive to keep, we fight against the forces of natural decay and entropy. And so this is us. So we'll just walk through here quickly. These are our divisions. The Operations and Transportation Division and the Fleet Division are all housed out at the Public Works facility, along with the Utility and Sanitation, Utility Billing and Sanitation. And then the Engineering Division and Administration are upstairs in just right up above us, excuse me. So starting with administration, this is Hillary and I, but as Public Works, we manage a very large $23+ million annual budget, and then a kind of a rolling $26 million capital improvement project budget. That is it's just a big ordeal. And so, there's roughly 80 some odd employees in Public Works, and we manage our stormwater management permit. And but in Public Works in general, one of our biggest and most important things is we strive to continually improve and do better in the way that we do business. In our utility billing group, It's a group of 6 employees that are housed out at the shop, like I mentioned, and we bill around 28,000 accounts, collect a very high collection rate. And currently we're between stormwater and sanitation, we collect almost $10 million a year. And then just in July 1st, the stormwater utility fee went into effect, and we're collecting that currently we went from $4 a month to $6 a month. And then January 1st, the new streetlight utility fee went into place. And so those bills are going to be going out here shortly. They'll be on the February bill, but they went into effect January 1st. So we look forward to the opportunities that that'll afford us. Our sanitation group, we own and maintain a lot of garbage cans. And between garbage and recycle and extra cans, it's a pretty big effort to keep them in good condition. And our sanitation group has also worked pretty closely with the Operation My Hometown effort and has kept them in a good supply of dumpsters. And then currently also operate the neighborhood cleanup program, which supplies dumpsters to neighborhoods that request them. And we collect a lot of dumpsters and hopefully do a good job of keeping neighborhoods looking good. One thing that's of noteworthiness, I think, would be to just mention that, or to remind you, in 2018 or so, the city and Ace Disposal, our carrier, we actually amended the agreement that we had because the price of recycled goods had fallen substantially. And so we were paying a monthly surcharge based on the value of the recycled goods. And so this little graph shows you from then till now what our monthly surcharge was that we were paying to Ace. And as you can see, it dwindled down to 0 and actually went negative for a couple of months. So they were actually paying us, which there was no contractual obligation to do that, but I think it was just a recognition of the gratitude that, that we had worked with them to enact that surcharge. So because the value of the recycled goods has gone up. So that's kind of some good news, but it's anticipated that, if current trends continue, we'll just keep paying. It'll just be a 0 surcharge, but it was nice to see that go negative. So our fleet group, these guys manage a lot of cars and cars and tools and all kinds of things. There's about 500 assets that they maintain for all the city departments and do quite a bit of work for outside agencies as well. They do quite a bit. With those 500 some odd assets that we maintain, we focus on preventative maintenance. That's obviously a priority to us as it avoids future problems. And but we do, as the council approves the purchase of new vehicles, we've got a great team of experts that upfits these vehicles with lights and bells and whistles, and they do a really good job. In addition, to that, they build like little projects like these, like the emergency management trailer and lots of different things. They're a very versatile group. And one little side note about our fleet maintenance group is they've recently gotten some certifications. One of our mechanics is Ford certified, and which means that all of our warranty work for all the Ford vehicles that we purchase, we do in-house. And so instead of us taking a vehicle to a dealer to get warranty work done, we do it in-house, and Ford reimburses us. So in the past 9 months, we've brought in about $50,000 in revenue to the city. So definitely just a nice, they're bringing in a lot of revenue, and we're keeping that in-house, which is a great asset to the city. With engineering, it's been a very long time since we've had a really good city engineer, but we do now. And Kobe is outstanding. He's doing a great job of running that group. And just I'll highlight a few of the things that they do. They manage anybody cutting our roads is, we take great offense to that, and Kobe does a good job of making sure they get put back correctly. And in addition to the various inspections, whether they be construction inspections or stormwater inspections, or inspecting new construction on city-funded projects or developments, whatever. one of the main objectives that we have is to build quality infrastructure from the beginning so that we have something that's that we can live with and maintain for a long time. And our plan review group and engineering also works to make sure that we're getting good products out of the developers, but also being a good service to them and helping them through that complicated process. We have a handful of engineers that design and manage the construction of our own CIP projects that you see frequently running through the council, and they do a great job, and they're a good group of engineers. We're also in the process of hiring a new, as you've raised the fees on stormwater, on the stormwater utility and the street lighting fee, we're trying to staff up for that to build the additional infrastructure that we have funded. So we're looking forward to that as well. Handful of projects. We're not going to go through these, but kind of a past, present, and future view of capital improvements, with some of our current highlights being the 27th West project that's happening right now, the 2540 South project that's out west, kind of in the RO warehouse area, and then the big 4700 South reconstruction that you've executed a lot of right-of-way transactions on that project. And you're very well familiar with it. The operations division is our largest division. This is the pavement maintenance folks, the snow removal guys. One of our biggest assets is pavement, and we put a lot of effort through our own slurry seal and crack seal efforts to keep that in good condition. And kind of like we learned from I Am Legend, it's a never-ending battle. It's always decaying and requires some constant love and attention. And so it's a great effort to try to make sure that we're applying the right resources to that. And concrete maintenance. You guys hear a lot from the public about sidewalks and sidewalk deficiencies and problems and missing sidewalk. And we have a concrete crew that does about 2.5 miles of sidewalk, either repair or replacement every year, which it's good, but there's still a lot more to be done. In the last year or so, we focused a lot of our efforts in the Operation My Hometown area to kind of work and gain some synergy with the good efforts that have happened out there as well. We have a right-of-way crew that's in the right-of-way division, or in the operations division, that spends their days picking up messes that are around town, and their mission is to make sure that we're keeping the place looking good, and we work closely with the police department to get whatever piles of garbage get left. So definitely a good effort there. And then obviously we have a robust storm drain maintenance group that sweeps the streets before that stuff gets into the pipes, and then cleans the pipes and we actually focus a lot of our maintenance effort based on inspections. And so they'll inspect and then identify things that need to happen, and we go out and take care of it. Snow removal, this has been a fun thing for me. I've enjoyed the last couple of weeks of drier weather. I'm trying to learn the snow removal process a little bit, but definitely a big, the public cares a lot about snow removal, and we take it very seriously and are working to provide great service and to find ways to provide better service. And so we have implemented a new GPS system in the vehicles in all of our snow plows that helps us. This is a little screenshot of the program that we're during an event, and the green is the stuff that's been done and the red stuff that needs to be done. And so definitely a good tool. We're working to optimize to get more done with the same amount of resources. Really, that's our objective. We're using different technologies. Yeah, Mayor?
So with this technology, can you just give a truck a route for the day and know about how long it'll take? So what will be a good day, and divide them up? Or
Yes.
is it just to see where we need catch up?
No, it's both. They can
Okay.
see where they've been. They actually have tablets in the truck real time, so they can see where they've been. They know, and it has their routes defined in it. And so they know where they need to go and where they've been. And this actually, it's great at the truck driver level, but it's also really good at the supervisor level to look big picture and see, you can see some neighborhoods are really green and some are really red. And so it's very helpful for us on a big picture basis to manage the overall operation. It's pretty substantial. It's pretty robust when we're doing it. We do two 12-hour shifts. We're noon to midnight, midnight to noon, 24/7 until until it's to a point when we can pull off and send drivers home and work a more regular schedule, but
So say there's a big storm, we get dumped on. How long, if it just happened one night, how long would it take the crews to go through the entire city?
I'm learning it's probably 2 days
Okay,
at least.
that's just good to have in our brains when they're like, they weren't here day one.
Sure, and we're not there, and cul-de-sacs are a challenge, and so we're working on, should we reevaluate our priorities? Should we, if you're asking me, I think we do cul-de-sacs last and maybe just deal with those complaints, but those are all things that we're working through. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Transportation and streetlights, we have a very big streetlight system, and obviously with the new streetlight fee, we intend to do more. But this transportation and streetlight group, they're responsible for the streetlight maintenance, all the streets, any signs that are in the public right of way, in addition to the striping and the paint and keeping that in good working condition. In addition to various traffic studies and the neighborhood traffic calming speed type complaints that we get as well are dealt with by the transportation.
So me again,
Yeah.
sorry. So I know we had some issues with these new black signs. They're burning up. They're not. Do we have a new manufacturer? Do we have a way to prevent that?
Yeah, we know why it happened. The signs that have faded, and it's really just the logo.
Yeah,
The logos were printed on a sheet that just degraded in the sun. So the new way that we do these would be printed directly on the reflective sheeting, like the 3M reflective sheeting, that the signs are built with the reflective sheeting is stuck to the metal, to the aluminum sign, and then a machine cuts out the letters and pulls out letters. So the white you see is that reflective sheeting. The new way of doing things would be that the logo gets printed directly onto that sheeting instead of a sticker that would have UV problems.
okay. So are we producing those in-house, or do we have a
We
supplier?
purchase them from
A supplier,
suppliers. Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Is that a local supplier or?
Yes, they're actually both located within West Valley City. I think we mostly buy from Safety Supply and Sign and from, they're on 3270 West. I don't remember the name of them, but they're local. Yep.
Some areas in District 4, the side very bad, some side very bad.
Yeah.
You cannot see the letter or the number.
Are they the old green signs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a handful, we have a lot of those still.
So I
except-
think it's a lot of them.
Yep.
So you guys planning to replace those?
Well, we have a budget it's not a big number that's in our, we're replacing some every year. But we don't necessarily have a plan to replace all of them at once. We would like to. That would be a good, we'll always take more resources, of course, but we recognize the problem and would love to fix it too. Yep. There's, some of those are old, probably maybe as old as, I don't know how old they are, but they're old.
40 years?
Well, yeah. So streetlight utility, we've talked a little bit about this. We're excited to have this new resource that's going to help us to maintain better our street lighting system and replace old things that are failing and will fail, and then add lights where we don't have any. So we're looking forward to that, and we're in the process now of purchasing equipment and hiring staff, and we're making plans. We hope in the next couple of months to have a project to bring down to the council to have awarded to be kind of the first streetlight utility fee project. So we look forward to that. And then kind of an ongoing effort, whether it be performed in-house by our own staff or with contractors with those resources. And then of course we'll work within engineering CIP projects to build streetlights as well. So it's been a good thing. So this is the end, but really I'm grateful for the opportunity to work in this department. I've inherited a department that was very well run by Russ Willardson. He's a man that certainly cared about the way that he did things, and he was very responsible, and we intend to continue what he was doing, but improve upon it and find new ways to do things better. we recognize the responsibility and the just of working for the public and the care that the public has for the public infrastructure. And we take it personally and seriously. So that is my conclusion. That's my report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll go to the council now.
Dan?
You had
Hang on 1 minute, Don.
sorry, Don. Street sweepers, it said it 8 times a year.
Yes,
How many street sweepers do we have?
we have 4.
4?
Yep.
Great.
Don?
Just one question on your snow removal. I notice it says you need 3 or 4 open positions. Are they drivers or are they support staff?
They're operators generally. That's certainly just in these times, it's a struggle to
Keep them.
to hire some of these positions. And so that's something we're working on, but yeah, they're
So do
they'd be operators or laborers. Our
do we
operators are
have
those
enough
that will have a-
operators?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Do we have enough operators to get all 22 vehicles out?
Well, generally, we don't have all 22 out. And it's because we don't have all the positions filled. And so we do have a lot of people that come over from other divisions and help. If they don't have a CDL, they can drive in the F550s. But we have some people that are still that are here within the city that love to come help us out on snowstorms, but we would be better suited and served if we had all of our positions filled.
I understand that. We only have 3 brine trucks. Are they able to cover the whole city prior to a storm?
They do, yeah. Those brine trucks are able to really cover, I guess when I say cover the whole city, we mean cover the main roads and the travel lanes on the main roads. We don't pre-treat any of the subdivision streets generally, unless it's maybe a higher priority. I shouldn't even speak to it because I don't think we do any of the subdivision streets, but yeah, the 3 brine trucks is generally enough to pre-treat the main roads.
Okay, thank you.
You says we have a handful of projects in the process of working on those right now. You have Crystal Avenue sidewalks in the process.
Yep, that's on the list for next year.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got our design team actively working on it, and you'll see right-of-way transactions here
Next year
in the
or this
coming
year?
months. 2023. So you'll see, it's likely that we'll award a contract this year, late this year, with most of the construction happening likely next year. But it's actively being designed right now, and you'll begin to see in the coming 3 or 4 months, you'll see right-of-way coming through the council on that as well.
Mr. Norfelt, did you have anything? Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to miss you if you did. Anybody else here?
I do, ma'am. Wanted to ask you, Dan, to go a little bit over the over and under discussion that we had without the UDOT guys here. So you could talk a little bit about what our thinking was there, our efforts with them.
Sure.
Where we may, obviously, we kind of alluded to it from a funding standpoint. They're going to want us also speak a little bit about where Taylorsville was at, if you would.
Yep.
And then after that, I really actually was kind of interested as to the council's thoughts on, do you have a preference for over or under and what that might be? Because that'll help us from a staff standpoint as we're working with UDOT on the project.
Yeah, you bet. So we've, the reason that UDOT is still considering both options is because we pushed them. They would certainly love to have eliminated the under option because it is expensive and it's a much harder project to build. But we didn't want it eliminated without having been fully vetted. And so we're definitely grateful to them for having kept that in this environmental study. And I don't know if you haven't had an opportunity to see like 114th South, that's a really good example of Bangor going underneath. It's great. I mean, from an aesthetic standpoint, you can look across the freeway and there's it adds a lot. Bangor has been a dividing feature in the city for a long time, and to have that vertical impediment is still big, but it's, as Ryan said, though, it won't function differently either way. It's really just an impact to the community, kind of a change. And so the UDOT's policy has been that they will pay for half of so that they do a cost comparison of over versus under. And then whatever that delta is, they agree to the cities that they pay half of that, but the cities have to come up with the other half. And it's, I think he said it was 18 million was the delta right now, which makes it 9 million, which makes, if Taylorsville were to participate, which we're not getting the sense that they have a desire to, but this isn't a priority to them to go under. But if they were to participate, we're looking at $4.5 to $5 million each with West Valley City and Taylorsville to make this interchange bang it or under option.
So can you tell what the question is going to be? In your mind, does it work to keep under consistent to the 201? Or would they push back against that so we would have some up, some under, some up?
I don't think they would push back, but their policy of paying 50% of the delta would remain, which is going to be a big number as we push through.
If we do,
Yeah, 47, 41, 35.
well,
31,
4.5 each
27,
time.
24.
Well, I was gonna say, it's probably not even that. It's probably more like 100 million by the time, because you've got that whole stretch that really isn't even just 35 Parkway, 201. It's kind of the whole, it's like the whole thing's almost one facility.
Yes, yeah, from between 3500 South and SR 201, because of the intersection spacing, or half-mile spacing we're looking at.
Right.
I mean,
So it's a
like
great
Wayne said,
question, because you're right, consistency is one of the things you would want to think about. If you, as a council, aren't all that committed or excited or whatever about the under option, obviously that makes our life easier from a engineering and a financial standpoint. But from an aesthetic, from a community standpoint, we definitely felt like that was something we ought to be fighting for. And so if that is a priority for the council, we would continue to do that, obviously.
Yeah, and and consistency would be great. It would be ideal to have them all under, but I don't know that that necessarily needs to, I mean, it can go either way. There's enough space, at least between 41 and 47 and 47, or yeah, and 41 and 35th, that you can go up and down without feeling like there's a roller coaster. I think if you were to go under north of 35, there's a good chance that it would just have to stay under, which could potentially be of benefit as well. But again, it's just money.
Well, and if we have until 28 to save up the money for, say, 100 million to do that, because I can understand that the overpasses over, I mean, what do you call it? That's under, so the over.
Right, yeah.
So those do divide, like you're saying. I do like that
Yeah.
way of thinking, what you're looking at that way. I had not thought of it from that perspective before.
It's nice. I mean, it's aesthetically, it's just.
Yeah.
If you can look across, I mean, Wayne and Nicole and I went on a little tour of the south end of the valley and tried to look at it from every angle, and there's pros and cons, and you as a council may decide that it's not a priority to spend all that money for that type of an improvement, but.
Mr. Norfelt has a,
Want to evaluate.
okay. Mr. Norfelt?
Dan, I have a question about the future maintenance costs. Is there a big difference for us if we go over versus under?
No, there really wouldn't be a maintenance cost difference for us. I don't think we would see that at all. It may, in the utility owners from their perspective, where these sewer lines are getting rerouted around Bangor, or maybe through backyards, or who knows where to get where they need to go. There could be some maintenance challenges, but I don't see any real difference in maintenance costs.
Mr. Christensen?
Dan, I drive Bangor southbound twice a week, southbound from 47th, and I go over the new overpass at 55th. Then I get back down to ground level, and I go over the 62nd overpass. Then I get back down to ground level, and then 90th. I'm after a snowstorm, especially, I'm a little leery to drive those because the snow is still melting off those overpasses. And so, you know, I think the underpasses would be a little easier to clear. At least they would know they had to clear them rather than, you know, wondering if I'm going to hit an ice patch going up the hill or down the hill, which is not a gentle grade either.
Sure. You would just get the ice patch on the side street that has the bridge that ices over, but that's
Yeah.
ice over, but yeah, definitely something to think about.
Well, we have a little more control over cleaning that upper street than if it's 47th and 8.
But I think you're describing the roller coaster that Brian was talking about.
Uh-huh.
And there's a likelihood that we'll have some kind of a roller coaster, whether over or under.
It happens, but you know, if we're consistent, I would push for the underpasses.
So if we pushed for the underpasses and like you said, it stayed under at 35. I don't know if you were being honest or whatever as to what, well, as to what the practicality would be. Would that make it so they would have to move the aqueduct, or is down at that north end, is the aqueduct out from underneath?
Likely that the aqueduct would have to be moved under any bang it or under circumstance because of the way that they construct those retaining walls. They drive in soil nails into the retained soil that then would most likely encroach into the easement where the water line sits. So it's likely that a bang it or under option would potentially impact the aqueduct more than the bang it or over option, but I'm guessing like that completely just depends on where it sits.
Well, and he said they're going to move the aqueduct on this one, whether it's under or over, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How long would it take for us to get a true understanding of what the impact would be if we did them all under or all over?
Not in time to make the decision on 47. I mean, that really is the bottom line.
Okay.
Yeah, I think ultimately they would like us to have a decision by April.
So could we do our own little in-house study of what it would cost, or would we only and not be dependent on them to kind of get an idea?
Sure. I mean, it wouldn't be accurate, but you can kind of extrapolate from the various interchange construction costs, what that would cost. So yeah, we could come up with a number.
It's make some assumptions based on really on what this thing cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's kind of worst case scenario. I mean, the potential is that the relocation of the aqueduct requires the acquisition of additional right of way. That could substantially drive the cost up, because if you need to purchase additional homes for that aqueduct, then that's obviously going to be part of that delta.
Right.
And one of the aspects of this aqueduct is they require this, it's a 50-foot easement that it sits within that can't have any structures or other things besides pavement and things like that. So it potentially could be quite a bit more, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you caught it. He did specifically say it, the difference, the delta between the two is around that 17.5 million. So, yeah, take that by 4 or 5 of them and it doesn't take long. You're stacking it up pretty quick.
Well, and I was doing the stack up of what you said. You take the 1,700, 50-50, and then 50-50 with Taylor's Will, it's more around 5.
Right.
So I was going there for each one.
Right.
5, 5, 5.
Right. Except there won't be.
Yeah,
Taylor's
so it would
Will.
be 10, 10, 10.
Right.
Yeah,
10, 10, 10 plus inflation cost is this, those.
Right.
right. That's true.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, to your
Yeah.
point, we wouldn't be putting all of that.
Yeah.
I also will say this
Yeah.
too, as well. If we decide, if the council decides they want to go with the under option, I mean, really, there's not us saving $10 million or whatever. We're not, what we're doing then at that point is trying to lobby, go to the legislature, get them to direct some more state funds to that outside of UDOT's normal process is how that would happen. And we've
Okay.
been pretty successful at
You
that in
have.
the past, so.
Yeah,
What's the
okay.
communication from Taylorsville City? I mean, it sounds like they're not jazzed about it, but
Yeah.
what,
It was pretty much a just polite no, is the way I would term it, right?
Correctly. They have other priorities.
Yeah. Didn't really care.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Dan?
What is the decision-making timeline here? I mean, is there time for the legislative session to gauge whether there's a possibility of raising that funding through an allocation, or is that, I mean, how soon?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So normally that's a pretty long process for doing, and I don't know that we could come back with like a commitment for sure, especially after the state just did this 10-year bonding deal, which they kind of wanted us to sort of in the large family sense. Okay, we gave you guys a bunch of money, now go away and don't bug us for a while, right?
Yeah.
Dad in the pocketbook or whatever. But that doesn't mean we ever actually start or stop, just like your kids, right? I'm right back again. And so we'll start that process, but would we have some sort of commitment like that? Probably in that April timeframe, I'd probably have to say not. But we can work it.
But we have until 23, 24.
No, because
We would have to have the commitment before.
right, because they make that final decision in the environmental study time period, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, so we would we
Okay.
would need to make the decision, and at that point, they'll probably put an agreement in front of us.
Right, because then they would then start designing around that and contracting the engineering costs and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, just asking, because it sounds like if Taylorsville's out, it's gonna
Right.
be us footing the bill.
Right. Well, and I'll say this too, which I forgot to mention earlier. We won't just let UDOT off the hook with the 50-50 split. Half of our argument already has been, you guys are barely 11-12% over your other alternative. Should be funding this anyway, just for the good of the community. Your policy is one thing. What you ought to be doing is another. Now, obviously, we don't have a lot of sway and leverage over UDOT, but that's the tack we would take and see if we could whittle that down.
I'd be in favor of pursuing, I mean, any and all options, just to put it on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it becomes a number that's palatable or workable, maybe we can. But I do understand that between now and April is a very short time frame. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my personal opinion is.
Yeah.
There's something that could be worked out maybe.
They've been good to work with and they've been cooperative and they did include it under some pressure from us. But it's pretty clear that, they're not really excited about the option. So the sooner they could get it off their plate, the happier they would be, which then puts the impetus on us. We're the ones that have to come up with the commitment.
Correct.
Is it still too late to get money from the state?
No, we wouldn't have a guarantee of that before we have to make the decision. That would be the pain point sort of for you guys from a policy standpoint.
To maybe say, let's go under, commit the money, but maybe get money in the future to put back into
Yes.
the purse.
Exactly.
Okay. But no guarantee.
Right.
kind of going along with what Jake said, if we could whittle it down a little bit, if UDOT gives a little bit, if we get Taylorsville, maybe they don't want to do half, but
Yeah, we could still go bug them.
do 30% or something, and then it's at least a little more manageable for us. to handle.
And if we have until 28 to find the rest of the money.
Oh, on the other side, yeah, right.
Plant a money tree.
Oh,
The big money tree for that one.
a really, really big one. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. And next, the council calendar. Any questions or comments on there?
I do, ma'am.
Okay,
It seems to be the night for questions for me, I guess. So we do have the strategic plan back on the calendar, right? Don't we?
yes, on the
Here
28th.
it is. Yeah. So my question I wanted to ask the council is, given what we did last year, given where we are with the COVID latest surge, have you guys given any thought? And we're prepared either way, so I'm not trying to tilt it one way or the other, but have you thought about, should we do this one in person or should we do it by Zoom like we did last year? I just wanted to ask the question, see if you had any thoughts.
I got my socks already. I got 3 already.
So you're good with in
So
person?
I'm good with, yeah, in person. Yeah.
Okay.
We're planning at the police, the community room,
Yeah.
which was set up for distancing. I think that's,
Okay.
for me, it's not an issue.
You're fine?
Yeah, I think if it's set up for distancing, would be fine in person. We could all wear masks if we wanted, or either way.
Okay.
Hazmat suit if you want.
Mr. Marfeld, do you have an opinion on it?
Yeah, I think we should be as careful as we can, but if we have enough space, that it should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe if it's not enough space, is there room at the Cultural Celebration Center? Seems like
It would have more space.
that room
There
have-
would be more room in the Cultural Celebration Center, but I think the spacing's fine. It's not like we have a whole ton of people in there, so I think we're good. You know what, though? I'll go over and check just to see if we can guarantee at least a minimum 6 feet, and if not, then we'll move it over to the Cultural Center.
Okay. And then for the public to come a row
Yeah.
kind of back to the back.
Right.
that
So
same
I don't think
spacing.
that'll be too much of an issue,
Okay.
but yeah, I'll check that as well.
Yeah, that's just the difference with the 2 rooms.
Right.
The other one might give a little bit more space.
Right.
Okay. And in the past, we had dinners after. Can we postpone that until things calm down and then we'll get together and because with new council members, I think it's important for everybody to get to know each other. But if we postpone that maybe till June or July when we could have it outside or the surges might be over. Would that be a problem with anyone?
Good.
It's good. No problem.
Okay,
Because we still have breakfast, right?
I'm glad you asked that question,
Okay.
Tom.
food.
Because last year we did this virtually. The year before
that's right.
that, we were pretty light. We decided right there the day what we wanted to do for lunch, and I think we just had lunch called in. And I don't think we brought much for breakfast other than just like snack baskets and maybe some apples and bananas or something. What would be your preference?
I think, I would like, I don't know other people, but I think it's a big breakfast and I would then go without lunch, Yeah, but
Okay.
that's other people too.
Well, and I think we could bring lunch in, just
Uh-huh.
have sandwiches, something
Sure.
simple that's not too much of a buffet. But preference,
I'm good either way. Yeah.
Jake?
I don't need any buffet.
Yeah.
Mr. Christensen or Nordfeld, do you have an opinion of what food you would like or the method?
I don't think we need very much.
Yeah, we're not really running marathons and everything else during the meeting, so we don't wear off a whole lot of that we eat, so.
Nope.
I'd say light food and, maybe sandwiches at lunchtime.
Okay.
I was thinking bringing a package, something.
Yeah, so
Okay.
light breakfast, but an actual breakfast, and order in lunch or maybe just paper sack sandwiches.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
So you mean different breakfast than just muffins and a piece of fruit?
I don't know. I was kind of
Okay.
trying to figure out in my mind what light breakfast might mean. At
Well-
least muffins and fruit for sure. And then
Oh.
maybe, I don't know, maybe like one hot dish or something. I don't know.
Well, the other option is, you all know, I'm willing to stop at McDonald's anytime
Right.
and just take orders and bring McDonald's, and then it's,
Yes.
everybody has their own sack,
Which I'll probably do anyway. Right.
That's
what
what
I
I-
like to do.
because I'm not a muffin girl, so. All right, so small, simple, if you want your own treats, granola bars or a specific drink, I would think just bring it, or your
Yeah,
bowl
we'll
of
bring all the-
M&Ms.
Yeah, we'll bring all the normal drinks, snacks, that sort of thing.
Okay, the basket type,
Right.
okay. All right, any other questions on that one?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, because we had staff or new members this year, I was wondering if staff could be there like they are here, just so that we have questions answered from the new people. as
I
quick
would
as-
rather not do that for a whole bunch of reasons.
Spacing is one of them.
Well, spacing and COVID is definitely one of them. But if we want to talk about it more, that's fine too.
Okay. Anybody else have an opinion on that one? Just because then I thought we could have answers just right there.
Would it be possible to just have folks be on call potentially, or?
Oh,
you know,
which, by the way, yes, I should
Well,
have
and-
added that. I will do that anyway, and
Yeah.
I always do. So
Rather than on.
even if we had somebody that needed to come in, because we had some really big topic we wanted to talk about, I could call them in and have them report as well.
Or have them on Zoom,
Or have it on Zoom. either
because
one.
to me, the texting and the
Mhm.
side phone calls haven't really worked as well.
Yeah.
And my other reason for having them there is, so like this meeting, they understand our full conversation. So sometimes fire will have a solution that's public works that they hadn't even thought of, but all of them hearing it, our concerns, puts more minds going at it. So that
So-
was my main thing, is
Right.
getting that relayed.
So my main reason for not having staff there, which we haven't done for many years, probably even your whole tenure. I don't even know if Don remembers us having ever staff there, but we
No, we
used to
didn't
have,
have.
right, we used to have staff there every year. And it didn't accomplish
What
kinda
I was
you're
hoping.
looking for. And it ended up being an even sort of drug out the process more. So I stopped doing that after a few years, and we didn't just do it once or twice. We did like 4 or 5 years in a row. I just stopped doing it for the reason that it really wasn't doing what we thought it would do anyway. And like I said, it made the process longer. It ended up with more distractions and tangents. And the compromise was, they said, well, I still want you guys available. So if I'll be off skiing somewhere, if I need you to come in, I need you to come in. And that seemed to have been sufficient for the purpose.
Okay. So I still want to push for them to either be on Zoom so we can ask a question right there, because I really think it is advantageous for them to hear the whole conversation.
Yeah,
Like they do
this-
here.
This is just one of those things I'm going to disagree with you
Yeah.
on. But if the majority of the council wants to have the staff there in some format like that, then we would do that.
I think, I agree. I think that they ought to be at least accessible, whether they're Zoom or in person. I'd like to get to know faces better anyway, so.
Yeah, accessible for sure. I'm in agreement with that.
But if we're having a conversation like the mayor says, and it, I don't know how that interaction is gonna work, but it'd be nice for everybody to hear what is coming out of our conversations.
Oh, another point to that too. They do hear that anyway, in that we just record the minutes verbatim. So there's nothing that they're missing from that meeting that they wouldn't be able to see word for word.
Oh, but they don't hear tone.
No, they don't hear tone. They can hear tone. We record the meeting, so they can hear tone too.
Well, and that's why
Normally they
just
don't.
watching it on Zoom. Anyway, Don,
Paul has been very good at keeping the minutes and doing the recording. And so I think if we continue with that idea, they do get the tenor of our conversation very clearly. And I think that would be the best way.
I think if we go with the, we need the all the head departments there. I think we need a bigger room, probably in culture center or somewhere, because it police department room right there is not enough.
no, it
space
wouldn't be big
for-
enough.
For all of us. Yeah.
So say that again, Tom, then you're
So we
saying
have to need a bigger room. you know
we
what I'm
would
saying?
have to get a
Yeah.
bigger room
Yeah.
if we were gonna have them there.
Yeah,
So
if we
what's
have to.
your thought on?
I think there's you can convenience so they can hear and they can see things there. I wouldn't mind a chance a new way, new method, you know what I'm saying? We haven't done that yet. I've been here for 10 years. I haven't done anything. If she mayor, she came up with some new idea. Let's try it out for 1 year. If it doesn't work out, and then we'll go back to normal for the way we do it. But if work out and we to adapt a new method, you know what I'm saying? That's a fair game. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, as a project management standpoint, if it were a meeting with a very set specific agenda that we knew ahead of time what was relevant and who should be in the room, I would be fine with them being there in person. But with it, in my mind, being more of a brainstorming session that sometimes takes tangents and sometimes goes off
not off topic, but can take different directions. I don't know that it would be the most productive use of some folks' time to have to be there, but I do agree that they should be available should we need to call on them.
But I think as Jake, we hit every single topic there. You know, public work, fire department, police department, very much every single one. And we knock it down for 4 or 5, you know, major things, and we hit it hard right after that. So I think it's very much all of them if we cover every single department. But we need a bigger space, we need a bigger room.
I hear you, but I'm just, you know, does John Flores need to be there if we may or may not talk about HR stuff?
Correct.
Good
30
point.
seconds to HR. I mean, I don't know that.
That every single one.
Yeah.
John's like,
They also have that too.
Yeah. For me, it's not
"Please,
necessary
John."
to have them in the room, but that's just,
Well, and the one good point might be, once we start on a tangent, they may be able to say, not even practical, and stop it just like that. We may actually move faster, depending on, so that it doesn't get too out of hand. But Mr. Norfelt, did you have an opinion?
Thank you. You know, in the past, I have talked with department heads who listened or read what we had talked about, or what specifically I had talked about. And it seemed to me that they had a really good understanding of what I was saying, what we were saying, and were able to address that without being there in person. And I think that for the length of time that we're going to be there, it's better to not have them there, but have them available. And also, you know, I'm remembering what our structure is, that the council, we have one employee, and that's Mr. Pyle. And then I don't know, I just feel like if we're inviting them to be there, and that we're kind of bypassing the city manager, and that's not how our city is run.
Well, maybe I didn't say it. I mean, to me, the fact that they're in study session is kind of the reason I wanted them there, for the same purpose as they're here. So even if they're not presenting, they come every week, but they listen to the full discussion. And that was my point, was whether or not it'd be more helpful for us to hear that discussion between us, and have an input that could even solve the problem before it becomes a list that Mr. Pyle's reporting on every single month. Because I would like that list to be 5 items, not 25 items. That's why I wanted just all the answers, the questions answered, and just whittle it down to as little as possible.
You know, I also don't want to make myself sound like I'm saying I know it all either, because obviously I don't. But I'm having a hard time coming up with a subject where I wouldn't have at least the basic understanding or knowledge of the subject, such that we would need to have a department head. Now, if we got into, like Jake was saying, if we got into a specific project where I don't know engineering, for example, or I don't know the contract with X contractor or whatever, then yeah, I would need that background from the staff member. But that doesn't really happen that much that I can think of, even going back to the strategic planning, which is another one of the things I'm actually thinking about, back to the years when we have had the staff there. And I'm like sort of sitting there thinking, this conversation has now gotten a little out of control, in the sense of we got 6 people kind of peppering this person with questions, which I could have answered myself if we had just limited it to that. And that's what I was talking about when I was mentioning at times that ends up just being a longer conversation. It doesn't help. It gets more distracting. It gets longer than necessary, as opposed to shorter. I see the aim there, and
Yeah, because
it just hadn't worked out that way in the past.
they still had you 25 questions.
Still had 25 questions. The list was just as long.
Hopefully we'll
25
change that.
projects.
We'll change that this year.
Now, I have done a few things in preparation for this year differently that I'm hoping will prevent that even. And I wasn't going to even bring it up till we were actually there in strategic plan. But one of the things I've done differently in preparation this year And kind of again, in the vein of there are a certain number of topics we talk about all the time, right? Or it seems like we do a lot. Parking or signage or density or code enforcement or, stuff like that. So I actually have gotten with the staff members individually and said, listen, here's a list of 10 or 5 or whatever it is, potential things that we either talk about a lot or as a timely subject or whatever. I want you to prepare me before we even go in there with memos, statistics, reports, and that sort of thing, so that we would be able to settle some of those issues even more quickly than we have in the past, or I have to come back and say, like you said, I'm not an expert on everything. So I could give you, well, this is what I know about this subject, but I'll come back and bring you a memo or a report, right? In many cases along those lines, we're ready to go with that strategic plan report or for that strategic plan meeting right now, because I've already been through that process with everybody, and everybody's pretty much already produced those reports and they're ready to go now. So that's one thing I was thinking about, the same sort of thing that you were, how to make it better, how to make it more productive and quicker turnaround. That's something we've already done towards that
Okay,
for the year.
that works then. So just strategic plan, you'll decide which building
Yeah.
and let us
Yeah, I'll
know.
go over and do the measure on, can we stay that far apart in the police side? And if not, or even just you guys have that preference, that's the other thing we do every year, right? Is just pick. If you have a
Oh, yeah.
preference, just go over to the cultural center. We'll do that too.
Anybody have a preference?
Or what?
The police center or the cultural center?
No, just when he says we're gonna go over there, do some measurement and try to look around.
Yeah.
We can go from there up to there.
Okay. Anything else on the calendar? I know there's been a few of the concerts that are on here that have been canceled today,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's going to be some moving around with
Right.
what's going on with the mask mandate and such. So I would just be mindful to keep track of what they send you as far as cancellations and such.
Yeah, it's another one of those weird new things we're getting used to. You kind of think everything's COVID related, right? But Erasure canceled and they had a non-COVID health issue that
Oh, really?
has delayed or canceled their tour or this particular day or whatever it is. I'm not sure, but yeah, so we got COVID and all the normal stuff, right?
Just people being people.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Don, or no? Okay. So we'll move
Not
on to,
yet.
all right, potential future agenda items.
I have one, but I'll discuss it during my council report.
I just want to have a question about Randy. He came here 3 times already. He shared with us about the noise with the custom built cars. So
Yep, on 4100.
is the police department is working on that one yet, or what the status there is? So can you help us out, Judge?
Yeah.
Clarify a little bit.
So this is another interesting dynamic of a persistent problem, right? And not just the persistent problem from the existence of the problem, but also from the from the gentleman bringing it, who wouldn't even tell us where he lived, right? So he wants us to go out and solve his problem for a location he won't give us, except for generally.
Oh, Bangor and 41.
Right.
Well,
So we went and figured it out. We went and figured it out ourselves anyway, where he lived, and we have actually done an op
Okay.
where we have, I don't think we impounded any cars, but we cited a bunch of people. This was on Saturday night last weekend. So there's an effort. We're doing that. Yeah, we're amenable to those sorts of things. Obviously, we'd like to do that. The longer term solution to this is not going to be us out pulling over cars. It's going to have to be something more along the lines of the state either reinstituting inspections or coming up with some way to catch all those issues on a car before they're out there racing around on the street. So the answer is yes, we're doing stuff, but no, that's not going to solve it. It might give some temporary relief in a particular area here or there, but that's a larger problem than us.
So the legislature in the newspaper, one of them, it said that they were looking at the legislature clamping down on these.
Yeah,
Is it really a possibility?
I don't know. What do you think, Nicole?
The person running the bill have the credibility to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a, you want me to?
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Just some microphone. So yes, it's since the time that they changed the code to begin with, and I'll get it wrong if I say it's 3 years, maybe 2 years. There's a lot of pressure from a lot of areas to do that. Not the least of which is the folks who provide that service in the first place have brought a lot of pressure every year. The other thing that happened last year when this bill was brought up is many of the hearings on the bill included things not just like the sound or loudness, but there were definitive crash related pieces of information that I think were at least concerning, it seemed to me, to the legislative body that was hearing those. So I think there is a chance, whether that's this year with this legislator in this particular vein, or whether there's some middle ground that comes in the future. I think that it's more likely than not that it will go back to being reviewed in some way. I don't think they'll go back to the way that it was prior necessarily. And the reason for that is an interesting one, and it relates to some of the things we've heard before, but there's a very strong lobby that pushes for what I would call libertarian viewpoint, and they've become a real force on the Hill. And this bill in particular, back when it passed, was their bill. And it was well backed, and really they fought really hard, and I believe they would continue to do that. So from a broad perspective, that gives you a long story short, it's a tough lobby to win against. And there would be a fight, but the good news is there are a lot of reasons and a lot of contingents here, constituents maybe is a better word, from different veins that are pushing for something. And a lot of sad stories from a not necessarily noise, but actual physical harm perspective. So ballparking it, I think they're growing more likely to hearing the discussion and topic. So that's long story.
How about the form of the bill as it sits? Will it address the problem more generally or more specifically, or how do you see that?
I think it would, because the idea, of course, as you mentioned before, or someone mentioned last week, that it's not against, or it is still against the law. So the activity, the situation, the structure of the vehicle as it is, whether we're talking about the loudness of the exhaust or some of the other things, still violates the law. It's really the function of who is enforcing that and how. Right now, Highway Patrol and our police officers will tell you that it surely is them. They're the enforcement arm. And I just feel like so yes, the bill as it sits right now would put that back in place so that the oversight is happening somewhere besides a law enforcement officer who, you need tools and expertise and those kind of things to do that. And on the side of the road, pulled over is not exactly the ideal location, nor does it solve the problem on an ongoing basis. So the idea, the theory of the bill is that to put back into place the proper oversight with someone other than the law enforcement officers.
Thank you. Can you make sure that's one on our list that we keep hearing about? Okay.
I just wonder. About these custom built cars. Are they local here in West Valley City, or maybe the outside of West Valley City? So maybe we could study a little bit about that. Because if they are inside West Valley City, I believe the patrol police officer will find out.
Yeah, we actually did get some stats on that. And if I remember the stats correctly from what the chief told me last week, it was about a 60-40 split, with 60% of them from inside the city. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think very much, because they know the area so well. So I was thinking, I'm just assuming, I don't have anything to say, on the paper, but I didn't assume it because they know the area so well.
Right.
So they should be somewhere around in this city.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's patrol police officer, they can find out those guys easily. They know exactly where the gang members, where the, here and there people have certain car. I think they know. Yeah. Yeah, I ride with them about 4 or 5 years. And they know anything.
You ran with the car club for 4 or 5 years?
Or the police.
No.
Oh, okay.
I went with the police officers.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they told me, yes.
All right. Anybody else? I have one thing. Do we need to put in a Yes.
Just on this same discussion, I probably live closer to 41st than most. And I hear it at night too, but I've got good insulation and good windows and it doesn't bother me. I can, I can turn over and go back to sleep. But when Rocky Mountain Raceways was here, they actually had a Saturday night high school drags where you could bring whatever you had and race them safely on their course. And I know we tried to find a place for Rocky Mountain when they got bought out. We couldn't really find a large enough place to do their whole thing, but we might be able to find some place in the city where we could develop a drag strip type area where they could do it safely and quietly, or at least quiet for the residents.
Yeah, far enough away. Well, and we used to get complaints about the midnight drags and the racing.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain.
Right, from Rocky Mountains people, the people that build homes to the south there.
Yeah.
So I've been out there with the little meter and they were never above the decibels you could have, but it still annoyed the neighbors. So we do have to be mindful of that, even though they were there first and the neighbors realized that, but.
Well, all those houses they built around West Jordan Airport are now complaining about the planes flying over too.
It's amazing how it happens everywhere.
But here the point is, Don, he has a good window, so he cannot hear something from inside. But other people, they don't have a good window like Don, so what can it be? You know what I'm saying? That's the point. We have to proactive. We have to on the fence. It's not like try to prevent. And that, to me, I think, I don't know, to be honest with you, have to look at other way around. People, they don't have that kind of window. And so what is going to happen to those people?
Well, and this morning, I swear they all moved to 3,500. So just as a
They were on
note,
35th this morning.
3,500 at 3 a.m. this morning. Yep.
Wow.
So
That's
I'm like,
because we were
great.
patrolling 41st.
Right,
Yeah, well, I know.
exactly.
Yeah, I know. I had friends in high school. I know what the playing game is.
So you were in the car club for.
I
maybe
won't tell
12
you how
months
many times
instead of-
people I
okay.
was riding with got exhibition of speed
Oh, okay.
tickets.
All right.
There were quite a few. So I understand it from all aspects, the fun part, the not so fun part. I had one other question. So to comply with OSHA and the federal regulations, do we need to put a mask mandate? Do we have one on the books?
So are you talking about vaccination mandate?
Vaccination mandate
Right.
issued by OSHA.
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is encouraging everybody to get vaccination. We're completely behind that. But we're also waiting to see how this is going to work out in the courts. That's
Okay.
what we're doing.
Well, I didn't know if we needed one in place.
Not
just
until then.
And not until it's
Yeah.
done, and then we'll have it. Okay.
Well,
I just didn't want to get in
then
trouble
we'll
with
decide
OSHA.
what we need to do.
Well, because
But
doesn't
right,
it,
at least at this point, it's up in the air.
okay, because it affects our federal funding and different things.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. That's why I want to.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make
When
sure.
it's all said and done, and whatever the court results are, we'll go from then.
Okay.
Whatever decision, because there's a lot of ways they could approach this question, right? And even if you've listened to the Supreme Court justices, as they have kind of been reported on what their tacks are, some of them are taking this, it's a public health emergency, not a legal question. The other ones are going, everything that comes before us is a legal question. That's all we deal with.
Yeah, or it wouldn't be here.
Right. So, where are they going to come out at the end of that? I don't know. But so when they do, we'll deal with that.
Okay.
I have a question for that. The Select County is basically it's a mandatory, everybody has to wear mask.
Mhm.
But the governor cop said, well, the government building employees.
Well, state government buildings.
State
Yeah.
government building,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. All right.
So did you have a further question from that though, Don? Because it's a real fascinating subject, right? Like, where are we? What are we supposed to be doing? And kind of what I've taken the tack of is we operate under the auspices of not the county necessarily for political control, but the health department from a public order and health department vein, right? So in my mind, from a management and operations standpoint of the city, the county's order stands for us. We don't have to say anything. And I don't plan on saying anything, frankly. Now, internally, I'm also handling it the same way we have with every other nuance of the situation, specific as we can gain information or as practical circumstances dictate, right? Like, so for example, we're all sitting in here wearing masks right now tonight by you guys's kind of policy and preference and comfort level. When Nicole and I and Angel are over in the administration room, we're not wearing masks. Maybe I shouldn't have said that when I was going to get reported tomorrow. I try to remember to wear a mask when I'm walking out in the lobby. Nancy and I have had the discussion, what are we doing at the fitness center? We're for sure wearing masks there. Same thing at the Harmon Center. Same thing for John's paramedics and firefighters, but maybe not in the Fleet building, for example. So we're handling this all on a place by place and case by case situation, and trying to avoid all the politics that threaten to suck us into the middle of it.
Well, and trying to avoid having all of our employees off with it.
Oh, right, also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we do have to implement the rules that kind of keep them safe.
Yeah,
So that,
yeah.
because you can be fully vaccinated and get COVID twice. It's
Sure.
been proven. We have a friend that is experiencing that, and I'm hearing more and more of them, so just isn't a guarantee, one and done.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I'm not an agenda item, but just a question about a point of procedure. What Tom had brought up made me recall that in the council meeting, when we hear public comment, it used to be a practice that those were acknowledged and either added to an agenda or a future agenda, or kind of dismissed as something that we routinely deal with.
Right.
Do you have a preference on that? And I'm only asking because I think sometimes, a lot of times, that may be that individual's only engagement with City Hall. And I think, at least to me, it felt like an acknowledgement. And even if they never did come back, at least they knew that we were putting it on an agenda or we were going to discuss something. And I know that kind of changed with Mayor Bigelow towards the end.
Towards the end, yeah.
Do you have a preference around that?
So honestly, I would like in study session to talk about each of the issues that are brought up, unless we've already spoken about it in a study session. And especially from this point forward with the 2 new council members, I think that'll be important to make sure they understand how staff is dealing with a lot of those concerns, because they may just be as shocked as, the person bringing it in, and they may be going, what? We do that? Really? But when we come to study session, they can have a quick 2-minute explanation that we could probably put down here at the end, so that if we run out of time, we could move it to the next meeting. But I would like to address all of them unless we've already addressed it, especially this first year with the new council members.
Yeah, I'm in support of that. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have a problem with doing that? And just have Nicole automatically? Okay. Yeah. If she can just automatically do it, and if staff is ready with an answer, I think it would help us a lot.
I do too.
Okay.
So
And
so that we're gonna put in a potential future agenda items, so, list them out. Is that right?
yeah, either that or a communication, whichever looks like it'll fit better.
Okay.
Yeah, understand. And that's easy to do. So there won't be any issue from our side,
Okay.
staff wise. I will say, get ready for a whole lot of, we've
I
already
know.
dealt with that, but.
Oh, yeah. But for these guys, we need to
Sure,
review for
yeah,
the new
also,
people.
Yeah,
Even though we've heard it,
Right.
I've heard it for 10 years, Tom, but
right.
for the new people, I think they really need to understand
Yeah.
the workings.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I said for the first year,
Right,
May not go on much past that. Then we might be more selective
sure.
Sure.
of only that one. And
Right.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council reports. Don,
I attended two committees today, the Healthy West Valley and the Association of Municipal Councils. And Association of Municipal Councils, we just set our tentative agenda for the next year. But they do want to know who will be continuing on there for the next year. So we may want to look at that when we get a full council. I told them I was there for right now, but it may change after we get a full council. Healthy West Valley, same way. They basically talked about the COVID and some ideas that the community can do to and especially Healthy West Valley can do to get behind some vaccination clinics and things like that. So you'll probably see some things like that coming up through community relations. So we'll see you then. But that's what I had in the just the membership on those committees was the agenda item I wanted to bring up.
well, I was hoping we could take care of those as strategic plan. Kind of discuss the committees that everybody's on and if they need to stand up, move one seat to the right and sit back down and rotate, or if anybody wanted to stay on one specifically. So is it fine to wait for strategic plan?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
fine. That we wouldn't get to it before that anyway.
Yeah, not with the new member. So, okay. That works. Anybody else? Sweet. Do we have a need for a closed session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, motion to adjourn, anyone?
So moved.
And all in favor? Aye.
Bye.
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 I'll let you know as soon as Carol is